I confess, I'm also married since 2 years with a physics teacher. Okay. Before we start, I need to make a few clarifications. The first one is concerning the language, because I know that there are guests here who don't speak German. Yay! And everybody else speaks English, I presume? Yay! So, because yesterday I asked what language I should do this in, and they said German, English, German, English. So my notes are all in German and English. So it's going to be quite confusing. But my mother tongue is Hebrew, so if you want, I can also do it in Hebrew. Which brings us to the topic of migration. Okay, so my mother tongue is Hebrew, my second language is English, my third language is German, and the physics teacher I'm married to is Turkish, so I live in Istanbul. So we have an array of, so this is my grade. So we clarified the language, we're going to do it in English, is that correct? Good, yes, yes. So, international conference. The next thing I have to clarify is Otto. I'm going to clarify Otto. This is Otto Lechner. He's a fabulous musician. Give him a warm And because I'm always interested in formats and the whole notion of just speaking in front of people, which we're used to so much. So I asked Otto, this is not rehearsed, this is an experiment, a curiosity of creativity, and I asked Otto to bring his instrument and to see what happens when we do this together. The next thing that I wanted to clarify was the title. This curiosity killed the cat, but who killed curiosity? Because I think that education, of course, as I don't have to tell you, has a lot to do with curiosity. But what I wasn't aware of, Erna mentioned it, that it's a saying, curiosity killed the cat. But I realized that I was telling other friends about the title, that they all loved it, but they didn't realize that curiosity killed the cat is a saying that people say. But in a way, and that is hopefully within this title, this is already, curiosity killed the cat is already the thing that kills curiosity, because you use it to tell children when they're too curious. They say, don't do it, curiosity killed the cat. Okay? So this is a saying that that we all use a lot. But cats have 9 lives, so so it's okay if one curiosity kills 1 life of the cat. I also wanted to clarify, because I think there's a bit of a difference between the German and the English title of Kulturvermittlung and Cultural Education, because Vermittlung is not really education. It's more about conveying or being, to act as a broker between 2 different levels. So it's probably one of the only examples where German language can use better to describe something than English language, because usually English is very good for that. But this is something important to me. And also in the work that I've been doing, I'm very much interested in the difference, because we tend to mix things between culture and art. Because Kulturvermittlung is not Kunstvermittlung. Culture is much broader than art. Art is part of culture. But what I'm really interested in, and that's why I'm happy to be here, is I'm interested in the conveyance of culture, or better said, conveying different themes of very different topics with the tools of arts and culture, which is again another thing. But I think the examples that I will bring will hopefully make that more clear. So what we can do is we can use artists and artistic tools to animate a territory, animate a city, animate a place, in order to convey values or ideas or art, whatever we feel is necessary to say. I consider myself a theater maker, and I still am a theater maker. The stage has gotten a little bit bigger. So when I work with the city is the theater, and the citizens are the actors and actresses. They are the protagonists. But I don't do anything different than what I've done when I was working in the closed, more secure spaces. And I had a very strong learning experience myself when I moved from Vienna to Linz to do the cultural capital in 2009. where I learned that I have to think differently when you animate an entire city. And in that context, Guido Reimitz and I, with others, developed this learning and creativity project that we called I Like to Move It, or rather, the students called I Like to Move It. So, this is an image from that project. We had to learn that through culture and with artists, we can transform schools. It was not about art, it was a project about transforming education and about learning and creativity, and putting creativity in the middle of the learning experience. Because we have to understand, I think, as a society, that schools are not any longer institutions just for learning. But for the so-called marginalized groups, that word came today in the air, it's also a place for socialization, and unfortunately it's the only one where parents and families no longer can take on that responsibility. So it's a space for thinking and questioning, for challenging, or hinterfragen, we would say in German, not just fragen, but hinterfragen, to really question the basics, and for playful learning. It's also a place where we learn about criticism and democracy, and that they are thrilling aspects of our life. So we create in schools a democratic space, also to learn ethics, values, and politics. And we did that with the tools of arts and culture, bringing artists into schools, but for very long periods of times, and working within the actual time of the learning, so not as an extra after-school activity, but put it inside, the creativity inside the curriculum. Now, as you know, Belgium and Brussels are a conflict zone between Flemish and Wallonian-speaking people, so Flemish and French. But when I got to the Flemish schools, where I thought everybody would speak Flemish, I realized that only the teachers spoke Flemish. And they were trying to get the kids to speak Flemish. And the whole conflict between Flemish and French speakers is taking so much of the attention of Belgian politics that they don't notice that most people speak Arabic and Berber and Turkish and Kurdish. As the title of the project already says, this I like to move it, it's very much connected also to our own bodies and how we can use bodies also for learning. And a very important aspect of the project is also, comes from a Chinese proverb that says, if you tell me, I will forget. If you show me, I might remember. But if you involve me, I will understand. And I think that is the basic aspect of this thing. In order to create any kind of, even very small change, we have to leave our comfort zone. And the work that we do, I think, is all about leaving our comfort zone, first our own, and then inviting others to leave their comfort zone so that change can happen, or that any kind of transformation can happen. So if you ask me the question, I will answer the question. This is a really big question. Für wen denn schon Kultur vermitteln? My answer would be for everybody. Absolutely everybody. But I'm curious to hear who is not tomorrow. Okay, the project in Lecce, I will take you now to southern Italy, was the application of a city to become European capital of culture. And the title that we chose together with the people of Lecce was Reinventing Utopia, or Reinventare Utopia. And the word reinventing came actually from the people themselves, who kept telling me, because I moved there about 2 years ago, was that they constantly have to reinvent themselves in order to survive. Now, it's very funny for me to come back from southern Italy after 2 years and talk again to people in Austria, where even when I talk to people with large cultural institutions, they all say, we have no money. We have no money. It's become like a standard sentence in culture. So when you come with projects like this, you say, these projects are great, but we have no money. You know, we have to find a sponsor for that. So I think and I think we see it here in a good way, is that it's also about priorities. Where do you put your budget? Because having lived in southern Italy, where there literally is no money, coming here to have people tell you we have no money is a kind of ironic joke. And we did that through curiosity. We developed a process that we called curiosity zones, and I will show you some examples of those in a few minutes. But here you see a curiosity zone in a school, and the symbol of the project was this blank speech bubble. So actually giving everybody a voice in the territory, so people could interact with us on different levels. And this is an example of a curiosity zone in a school. And together with these 14,000 people, we developed the Reinventing Utopia. Of course, Utopia, the necessity to think in grand design and to create an ideal place, and the EU playing with the joke of, because it's a European project. The people of Lecce and Salento developed 8 utopias. The first one being Democratopia, which was, of course, about participation, so we were already living it in a way. But it was also about good governance and creative administrations. So administrations learn to think across borders of departments, because if we don't change public administration, a lot of the efforts that we do will not have the same impact. So we have to actually start also by doing workshops and working with the administrators, not just marrying them off to Kulturvermittler, but making sure that they think in the same interdisciplinary ways. So Democratopia was the first utopia that they discovered, which is about our political culture. The next utopia we called Polystopia. And Polystopia is the utopia where we break down barriers. Physical barriers, mental barriers, health barriers, cultural barriers, ethnic barriers. A city without barriers was what the people were asking for. So with Democratopia and Polystopia, we had covered our political culture and our social culture. And the next utopia they named Edutopia, because we need well-educated people to live these kind of utopias. So Edutopia was about how do we create the schools for the 21st century. And as learning doesn't stop with school, the next utopia they labeled Talentopia, which was about the utopia of human potential and lifelong learning. Because what we've become experts on, as Sir Ken Robinson also puts it, we are experts in destroying human potential, because there are no untalented children. And these utopias were going to cover that. And as our business world and economic world also needs creative people, the next utopia was called Profitopia, using the term of profit from economy. So it's not a kind of only a socialistic vision, it's not against profit, but it's a profit for all type of society. And profit for all in southern Italy, not to be confused with profiterol, which is something we also like a lot. But profit for all means profit both for the entrepreneurs, but also profit for the people doing the work, but also for the community and for the environment. Which brought us to our next utopia, which we called Ecotopia, which dealt, whoopsie, I wasn't supposed to do that. Because of the mafia and because we send all our toxic waste to the south, Salento is an ecological disaster zone. And the cancer rates are growing. So for people, Ecotopia was a very important utopia. And our capitalistic world works in strange ways. Instead of cleaning up the waste, private clinics are opening everywhere in Salento because they know they're going to have many, many, many patients in the next few years. So Ecotopia was a very existential utopia for the people. But because we were working on Utopia, which also had to deal with our own body, and artists and doctors were working on humanization of medicine. Experience-topia was the next utopia they developed, how to experience their own territory, both for guests who are coming, because it's a very fast-growing tourist area, as well as how they can experience their own territory well, to create a different kind of tourism and how to create a new Salento narrative for the territory. And last but not least, they developed Artopia, which is the role of artists in social change, and to create better environments for people to be able to work and create art there. So as I said before, it was urban development connected with human development. And as Lecce was also applying to be a smart city, we said that, okay, so we have the Smart City Initiative on one side, which is about the smart city, and our initiative connected with them for smart citizens. Also, we went into neighborhoods and we worked with kids and artists, and not only kids, but people from the neighborhoods to develop specifically their neighborhood in the context of a cultural capital. And in a way, it comes down also to one question, which Ernst Bloch called the question of all questions, die Frage nach dem Wir, the question of who we are and what kind of culture we want to live in. So our slogan was also Noi siamo Lecce 2019. We are Lecce 2019, which is something that people could very strongly identify with once they understood that it's about them, that a process like this is about themselves, because the city was very skeptical of Cultural Capital of Europe project. Because that project already has 3 problems in the title. First of all, it's culture, it's elitist. It has the word capital in it. There is no capital in southern Italy, no money in southern Italy. And it's about Europe, which people are also quite resistant to. So doing a cultural capital of Europe project begins with a lot of mistrust. So the whole idea was to build trust and to make people aware that they are the cultural makers, the culture creators. We also involved young people and media artists with artists from Portugal. They're called Canal 180. They are a cultural TV channel. They're wonderful people. And they make creative camps. Creative camps usually for young professionals in media arts. But I convinced them to work with kids for the first time. So we brought international artists, and for 1 week they all slept in a wonderful cultural center in San Vito, in Ex-Fada. And for 1 week, young people were working with media artists. This is something that, of course, we want to continue there. And because our theme was the Utopia, they created murals, they created T-shirts, they danced, they made films, just introducing them to a different kind of a media world. And we also went and worked in prisons. So culture needs to reach people who cannot come to us. And this is one of the actors. They made a big theater production. So this was an institution that already is in Lecce, people working with prisoners on theater. But we did further workshops with them, and the word fiducia and trust kept reappearing in our project. But one wonderful thing that happened was that we managed to get permission to bring that theater company out of the prison and perform in the city theater. It was such a big success that they now perform regularly in the city theater. Because there's a law in Italy that allows people in prisons to work if they get paid. So we activated that law by giving them money for performing there. And it's a logistical nightmare to bring a theater company from a prison, but it's worth it, and it's such a big success also for the people working in the prison, that they said the aggression in the prison, the level of aggression goes down. The man in the middle is Antonio Quarta, the big coffee maker, and he was a partner, a very great supporter of this project, because he also believes in investing in their own territory. So there are people who say they're not sponsoring art. I think there's also maybe a different discussion that I like to lead, that it's not about art sponsorship, but it's about investing in your own territory and investing in your own people. And we also were big partners in the first gay pride of Salento, that was in Salento. And we used that opportunity to stage a mass same-gender wedding. Now imagine this is very Catholic southern Italy, and on the main square under the Sant'Oronzo, 120 same-gender couples were married by me. Maybe the most important thing I've done in my life. See there, at the bottom there, that's my signature, there, right there, at the bottom right. But it was a really great day. I also believe, because culture is inherent in everything that we do, is that every ministry, every department in municipalities should have a culture budget. Because if we think where the word culture comes from, it actually comes from agriculture. That's the first time that I have researched that the word culture comes from. But we find it again also in German or English, Unternehmenskultur or Wirtschaftskultur, Schulkultur. It's everywhere. Culture is everywhere. But we tend to say, no, culture is there and the rest of the world is here. But actually, culture is here and the rest of the world is in it. And that's why I believe that every department and every ministry should have a cultural budget to transmit the values and themes and topics and contents of that specific ministry. So this would probably be what I call a kind of social cultopia. Thank you.